If you're trying to get some sense of the many functions that exist in Excel, and there are well over 450 of them, a starting point can be the Formulas tab in the ribbon. Now, let's imagine you're working with some data here. You've got some statistical background, but you're not quite sure which functions are going to come into play here that you might want to use. On the Formulas tab, and by the way, your display might look different here depending upon screen resolution. Sometimes these are stacked up more horizontally than you see them here. Recognize that if you have been using functions recently, there's a category called Recently Used, and if this is one of the ones you've used recently that you remember that you're looking for, you can certainly click one of those options there to quickly get to a function you've used recently. Without going through all possibilities here, recognize there are quite a few financial functions, and as you slide the mouse over any one of these, you can pause and read the description there, possibly even click Tell Me More to get more information about this function or that function. And so they're organized in categories. And most of us don't have the time to go exploring all the possible entries here. Text is another category you may or may not have heard about, and yet there are some extremely valuable functions there as well too. Usually it's the need that drives the looking for this function or that function. So there are quite a few here. And although I did mention a statistical function, strangely enough, you usually don't see that in the initial list of categories here until you come to More Functions. And then you will find statistical. Quite a few of those there, also quite a few engineering functions. And of course, if you've worked with Excel for a bit, you recognize that some of these are highly specialized. Some of you will never use these engineering functions. Others of you might not use these statistical functions. But if we did want to use one of these, suppose it's a statistical function, and maybe it has something to do with standard deviation. That's a concept that a number of people are familiar with. You don't necessarily know at first where to look, although beginning with the letter S would be a good guess. And as we get to that part of the alphabet, recognize it looks like there are any number of them here. And at this point, of course, your knowledge of standard deviation is going to either start to kick in, or you will go at different times to the Tell Me More option here. But maybe you've figured out that it's this one here. You can click here. This will pop in the function name for you, give you some more information. You might, at that point, for example, move the title bar rightward. And if we wanted the standard deviation for these numbers right here, possibly we'd be highlighting these. In other words, we're taking advantage of the fact that we weren't quite sure which function we needed. We think we found the right one, and we're being invited here to actually select the cells that are in question. Formula is even displayed before we click OK. Click OK, and it's in place. Now, that's just one example and one function of all the many possibilities, but not a bad starting point because you get some idea of the scope of functions in Excel and a place to get started and to get some initial help on a description of each function as you encounter it.